Good evening, friends. As promised, I will do a review about the book Invictus. This Invictus, Conquer the Enemy. This work is based on the 2009 film directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela and Matt Damon as Francois Pienaar, 1995 Springboks captain. As many of you must have learned in history classes, South Africa is a country that was marked by racial segregation instituted by law called apartheid. Word in Afrikaans that means segregation. It all starts in the year 1652, the 17th century, when the first Europeans, in this case the Dutch, started the first settlements in the extreme south of the African continent. Since the beginning, these people, known by the name Afrikaners, finds way to separate themselves from the native black population with the goal, according to them, of preserving their culture, their language, the nearest Dutch language derivatives, and their genes. A lot of Afrikaners spread in South Africa and in the regions of African Southwest. Namibia belonged to the South African Union so far, and became farmers, known by the name Boers, that mean farmers in Afrikaans, and they were diverse in the agriculture, and livestock and in the wines production. That can be seen closely in the present days. In the 19th century, a second type of Europeans, in this case the British, started to occupy the territories of South Africa too. These British has specialized themselves in other types of activity, as in the exploration of mineral resources, as the coal, the petroleum, diamonds and gold. As there were these divergences of interest between the British and the Afrikaners in the same territory, and because these British not being slavers and had given liberty to the black people from the forced work, there was a great war between the two, known by the name Boers Wars. This war was bloody and happened in the end of the 19th century and in the beginning of the 20th century. By the way, this was a music theme that I already sang and played in the piano, the Transvaal flag. In the 20th century, it was seen the institution by legal ways of people segregation by the color of skin. This book, written by John Carlin, explains with details this history and the imposed rules. John Carlin is an English writer that lived in South Africa from 1889 to 1995. This era was considered one of the most critical by historians and specialists. In this short interval of time, it happened a lot of events that almost culminated in a bloody civil war. This can be seen in the movie The Bank Band Club. As the apartheid were collapsing, mainly because to the international pressure, there was a dispute who will take the power of the country. The favorite was the newly released of the President Nelson Mandela of the ANC party, African National Congress. In the dispute there was also the party of the liberal whites and the Zulu party of the far right wing, amazingly, known by the name PAC. This last had inclusive the following slogan: a colonizer, a bullet. This PAC has made an alliance with the National Party from the Afrikaners. That becomes hard for a foreign stand. The objective of these two converged at a certain point. The NP planned to create a country only for whites, with the best lands, beaks and infrastructure, while the Zulus from PAC would get with independent territory. However, the ANC from Nelson Mandela has won the multiracial elections of 1994 and he became the first black president of South Africa. But the country was still divided, including in the world of sports. While the black people loved soccer, the whites loved rugby. Seizing the opportunity that the 1995 Rugby World Cup would be made in South Africa, Nelson Mandela started to support openly the Springboks. That by the time there was only one non-white player. In the interviews, he said that the nation should join to root for the team, according the newly created slogan, "One team, one country." Nelson Mandela also tried to convince to his family and closest friends that the Afrikaners, seen as mortal enemies so far, were now allies and the players of Springboks were our boys. With many dedication and effort, the Springboks reached to the finals against New Zealand, one of the best teams and favored to win the championship. The match happened at the 15 hours of the day 24 in June 1995 at the Stadium Ellis Park in Johannesburg, and Nelson Mandela showed up in the field to greet the players before the match with the Springboks jersey and hat. The match was hard, being taken to the extra time. However, the Springboks did it, keeping the highest score until the end of the second half of the extra time, and therefore they became for the first time world champions. It can be noticed that Nelson Mandela and François Pienaar did a great job unifying a country divided by the racial hatred through sport. Mandela avoided the war, but it didn't mean he has led South Africa a country of perfect peace and harmony. After apartheid, this country showed its singularity for the world, letting of being an example of Invictus, and to sustain the tire of scapegoats of the human incapacity to overcome their racial, tribal, national, ideological and religious antagonisms. It became a country with the same challenges than the others. Challenges in providing housing for the poor, in the combat against criminality, and in the fight against AIDS. The mankind's eternal disgrace unfortunately continued in a way. The rhetorical problem of the skin color didn't disappear totally. But once more, I want to congratulate the Springboks. Well done to in order to brought the World Cup in 2019. Congratulations! And in the link in this file in this video, you can see I'm singing and playing the current anthem of South Africa, Niko Sikelele Africa. Goodbye.